Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC on YouTube and Twitter. And Natalie, how are you doing, Nat?
I'm doing good, John. Good to see you again.
Yeah, brilliant. And thanks for last week. Sorry that I couldn't make it. I had to work, unfortunately. But I saw the show afterwards and you and Jack did a cracking job talking about some players who are going to come back from injury, and definitely looking forward to seeing those players. Today we are joined by Stuart. How are you doing, Stuart?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you. I'm trying not to speak too loudly as to wake the 8-month-old upstairs. So, hopefully you can all hear me okay.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Spot on. Thank you. Yeah. Look, we'll do a bit more of a better introduction to you shortly, Stu, but we just want to get straight in. The Everton match that never really went ahead. Nat, you start us off and then I'm sure I'll jump in as well.
For me, it's a disgusting, disgraceful. Man United have gone through this before with the Charlton game that got called off. I mean, from what I've heard, it's potentially, it wasn't looking to go ahead at all. You just don't want to see things like that. I understand, weather. I understand, for example, maybe a waterlogged pitch a lot. But, I've been living in Manchester. Manchester, Liverpool, they have similar weather. People are saying we've known about this 4 or 5 days. So if you knew about it 4 or 5 days, why have you not got alternatives? Why are you not making other plans? There was talk that Man United were just offered 24 hours before the game, so literally 7 o'clock the night before, we're told, can you put it at your stadium? How are we going to do that? How are we going to put a game with everything that's needed? Eldon's just said it. That's how I agree, because I don't think you can cancel a game that close without some kind of warning. And like I said, they tried to put it at LSV. And for me, the standout was Casey's words, the way she says, we were accommodating, we did everything. And, a lot of people, know about Casey, have watched women's football. For me, she's very diplomatic. She sees both sides. She's, encourages the growth of women's football from all around. And the fact that she sort of went out and said, we were accommodating, we did everything we could. We wanted to play that game, not, both teams wanted to, do this. For me, I think it stinks a bit. And, I'm sure, Willie Kirk came out and said this and that, but for me, it stinks. And
well, the whole thing, for me, the whole thing's slightly amateurish, and it's embarrassing. When the league wants to be taken seriously and is being classed as an elite competition, you should be able to put a game on, whether that be a Goodison Park. And then let's face it, if you just have a fully behind closed doors situation where you say there's no press, bare minimum, we won't even televise it. If it gets it played, we won't televise it. While it's disappointing, most fans will accept that. It slightly saves face a little bit. And I was watching the Real Madrid men's team play the other night, and I noticed that they're obviously playing at their training ground or the training pitch. I'm sure there could have been something. They basically need a pitch with 2 goals, a changing room, and if it smacks of amateurism, unfortunately, or it's something that's going to send the conspiracy theorists going crazy that they were looking to get it called off because they're obviously a bit tired and they were concerned about it. But it's hard not to think that ultimately, isn't it?
I think when Casey said what she said, it is out of character. So something has obviously brought that on. And for me, it reminds me very much of, I work in retail. I'm a retail manager. And if I've got a member of staff who wants to go out on a Friday night, having a drink, who probably wants to go be on a day off the following day on a Saturday, you can guarantee that person will plant the seed on Friday morning. Probably start saying, oh, I've got a bit of a bad back coming, or I've got a bit of a headache coming. Next thing you know, they're ringing sick the following day. And for me, with everything that was going on in the 2 days building up to it regarding the changing of times or the broadcasting or something to me didn't quite sit right. So when this was cancelled, I wasn't surprised. And to me, it's because something beforehand wasn't quite right.
Well,
Yeah, on that.
What I heard is that they were changing it, and I just thought it was changing it for TV. Maybe that's my innocence. I thought they were changing it for TV. They wanted to get everyone to see it. I thought, we're going to broadcast it. It'll be great, because we got a bit excited when we saw MUTV live. We thought, it's going to be on TV. They've done everything they can, United, and Everton agree. They want to, the fans are locked out. Let the fans see it. That's what I thought it was about. And then obviously the night before as well, she did that little clown thing. And everyone's kicked off about it and said, it's all come out in the wash. And like you say, things like that are out of character for Casey.
Yeah.
And, that's happened. Then after Willie Kirk started talking about 7 players and she did another little thing. For me, it's obvious. And, people will say this and that. But like Stuart says, amateur, you can't have a professional league and go on like this. They should have done it at Finch Farm or done it, LSV, done it just somewhere, bang, get it going. Not a big stadium, fair enough, not televised, just get the game played.
The comical thing about it all is you had a really easy get out by saying that a couple of the players, like John Staff, planting the seed, they've got a little bit of a cough. If you say that you've got a few players feeling under the weather, then no one bats an eyelid, to be honest. That's your easier get out. Or you think Everton would have taken photos of some damage. I don't know. They're a good setup, Everton. I've been fortunate enough to see them a couple of times. I see what their commitment to women's football. So it's really hard to think that they would take that sort of action. And it's a little bit Sunday league. So you just got to try and give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. I'm sure the players would want to play. There are players that didn't start the cup final that would have wanted to play. They'd have been happy to jump in. It's very, very unfortunate. And as I say, when the way that it was handled, it's going to get all the conspiracy theorists talking, and it gets everyone talking about women's football for the wrong reasons, unfortunately.
One way or the other, they're in the wrong, aren't they? It's either the stadium isn't good enough, which is their fault, or something else has gone on behind the scenes. But either way, it's not great, is it? Like you say, very amateur. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Reaper 2004, John Fry, Eldon, Supreme Don 500. Thank you for joining in. Just before we move on to a bit about yourself, Stuart, I mean, what do you think now that's missing that Everton match? Will that put us as a bit of a disadvantage going into Arsenal? Could we do with that match practice going into Arsenal?
I tell you can look at it both ways. The way that Casey will have trained the squad and the intensity they train with, it's an extra rest. Arsenal have played during the week and they're going to want to come out and prove a point, ultimately. So I'm being glass half full. Think it's actually going to be quite a positive thing because every single one of those players are going to go out there and prove a point. And with a good record so far this season, the only points dropped being against Chelsea and one of the top rivals, they're going to look at this as their statement. I've seen many involved in the press say that last season was a bit of a consolidation season, and this season, if Man United could break into the top 2, then that'd be awesome. But no, Casey's with the signings of Heath and Press, she's going to be looking at the title, and the Arsenal game is going to be the sort of game that's going to win you and lose it ultimately. Yes, I think it's going to put the advantage to United, to be honest.
For me, John, I think it would have been good to see LJ, Ivana, Honor, the names that we talked about, Jess. I think even if it's just half hour, 40 minutes, get them players having minutes in the legs. For me, I think Honor's a massive player for us. I expect her, like we said, to play versus Arsenal. I don't expect Ivana. Maybe Ivana might come on, but I definitely expect Honor. So I think it would have been fantastic for her to just get those 45 minutes or, this and that. Yeah, you could have come out with injuries and this and that, but just getting a bit of match fitness back into the people like LJ, people like Honor, and now they're going into Arsenal. I wouldn't say cold. Yeah, it's extra rest. I'm not saying, the training is intense, but they're going into it with, someone like Honor as well. I feel like she's our best fullback. So for me, it would have been nice for her to get minutes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But you look at that squad, there's players that are ready to go. And if the players that are coming back from injury aren't quite right because they haven't had those competitive minutes, then I'll tell you what, those that they're in there covering the injuries, they're going to be fine. I'm looking forward to the game. If I was going now, I'd probably go 3-2 win United.
Big
That's
show.
good.
Yeah.
We'll move on to that towards the end then. But yeah, just before we get to that then, so for people who don't know of you, Stuart, and what you're all about, just talk to us a little bit about your website and everything that you got going on there with Sin 71.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, obviously my name's Stuart. I've been involved in women's football as a coach for the last sort of 6 years or so. That's been at the 6th tier down in Hampshire. I kind of where most of my background is within grassroots football and the sort of from tiers 3, 4 downwards. I've seen, and it's been great to see the increased coverage of the Women's Super League, the Lionesses, and to some degree the Championship. Nationally, you can't fault it. But for me, the most important league in the women's football tier is the National League. It's that tier 3. If you don't get that right, if we can't push that to be professional and give that the attention it deserves, that's when I think that the England team is going to struggle. There's only so much football that you can get out of the Women's Super League, and with the increase of foreign players, for me, while development football is good, I want to see these players playing either in the WSL, in the Championship, or going down into the National League, because you look at the quality of the National League now with the sides like Sunderland, Fylde, Watford, Yeovil. It's a good standard there. To say that they're not elite is a little bit of a disrespectful slight on them. They lack the money. A lot of these leagues at that level don't get a penny for winning their league. And if you're not going to get any money for winning your league, how are you expected to grow? You really are reliant on on a wealthy men's club to bankroll you, sadly. And I thought, well, actually, I've got a background in sort of web design, and everyone thinks they're a little bit of an amateur reporter, and I'd like to think I'm all right, not perfect. I've got a GCSE C in English, so if you go through and read things, you might see the odd spelling mistake, but I think generally it's pretty decent. So I thought I'd launch Since 71, which is named after the year that the ban on women's football was lifted. I quite like that little name, to be honest. They were quite proud of it. And we started quite modestly. I actually live in Portsmouth, so we started building links around the clubs in our area. And every single club that we've ever approached have always been really receptive. If you try and go to the clubs like I'll name and shame, sadly, try and go to clubs like Manchester United to get any access to the women's team, it's zero. You don't get nothing. You'll be lucky to get an out of office response, to be honest. They've probably just got a dummy email that's just kind of filtering the likes of me away. But every club has been so welcoming. The first year that we were together, we approached Yeovil Town about sort of potential access, and they said, yeah, we'll get you in the press box. And I'm thinking, okay, I might kind of just chance it because they're playing Manchester City in the next couple of weeks. And they were like, yeah, no worries, Manchester City, come on down. And they were so welcoming. They were more than happy to give us any access to the players. I'm sat there in the press box with Karen Bardsley putting her feet up on the chair next to me, which for us is like the first 3 months into the project was fantastic. And ever since then, it's just grown and grown organically. We never try and chase followers. We are more than happy to have a small group of football fans that want to follow us. But the most pleasing thing was the fact that a lot of our followers are also the players, the clubs, and it's been fantastic. So instead of just me putting out the odd posts kind of every 2 or 3 a week, we've actually managed to recruit volunteer writers of people that are just passionate about women's football. They're passionate about their team. I've got writers that are based in Yeovil Town, for example, and they were saying, for my match reports, do I need to be kind of balanced? I'm like, no. Wear your shirt. You can say we. I don't want you're not the BBC. I'm not paying you. You don't have to be balanced. You have to be fair. Like, don't if you lose 3-1, don't just talk about the one goal you scored. Talk about everything else, because it grows the game. And we've been really lucky. I think we've now got a group of at last viewing, it's about 15 writers, and it's fantastic. There's never any deadlines for anyone, but everyone's just really enthusiastic to talk about the women's football. And because of that, when I set out to cover that grassroots sort of National League level, but we've been able to open it up and cover all tiers from international level down to youth soccer games. And I'm kind of bowled over every time I kind of see the stats and I see the visits from all over the world. It's lovely. It's still, let's call it a niche sport, so we're never going to be getting those numbers where you're getting thousands of views a week. But strangely enough, we broke all of our records for site visitors during lockdown, strangely enough, considering there's no football there. But that was purely because the players were so open to talking to us. Quite often we've just approached some players just via their Twitter, we've gone via the clubs, and never has anyone said, no, I won't do it. It might be like, I'm a bit busy, but I'll try and get around to it. But everyone is just really committed to growing the game. We all saw Marta's, I don't know if I'd call it an outburst, but a kind of a rallying cry that actually everyone's got to grow the game and there's a responsibility to grow the game. And it seems like every single player is wanting to do that, from WSL through to grassroots volunteer football. We put an article out this morning from the manager of Hartlepool Women, who wanted to talk and share the story of his club. And it's been brilliant to actually hear stories from those that are actively involved. And that's what people want to see, and they want to read, and they want to hear. They don't want to hear that the media trained, yes, I'm very happy, it was a great game, we tried really hard. They want to hear people come out and say, oh, I'm angry about this, I'm a little bit annoyed. And it's much like you touched on there with Casey Stoney coming out with the statement. She's not the sort of person that comes out with a statement. So the fact she's come out with a statement, you read between the lines, and there's obviously a lot more to that. And that's what people want. They want honesty, they want integrity, and they get that in women's football more than they do men's. The fact that it's so approachable. You go to games and they're there afterwards. They'll wait. I tell friends of mine, go watch women's football. If you really enjoy, if you like football, but you're disenfranchised with the fact that there's no real, you can't relate to the players, go to your local women's football club. You can support Man United men's. So support Man United women's if that's the easy transition. But if, like me, you live in Portsmouth, go watch Pompey women. Go watch Southampton women. Go watch Winchester.
I think that's very similar to me and that. So we've come across, so we're Man United fans, and we've come across from the men's game. And obviously, because we're Man United fans, we want to support Man United women and Man United Academy. We go to watch the under-23s in the same stadium. Talk about growing the game. How do you think Manchester United have helped grow the game? I'll come to you in a second, Nat, but let's just see.
Massively so. And for my background, I'm actually a Manchester United fan myself. I've previously had a season ticket for a couple of years, and then a little one happened. So that's kind of killed my outgoings and my free weekends. And I also coach an under-15 side at Havant and Waterlooville, so that writes off my Saturdays and that writes off my Wednesdays. So I've had to give up the season ticket, sadly. But when I came across to women's football, that was around the same time that the women's team was launched. And that was my kind of easy transition. I thought, okay, well, I'll get behind this team. And I was lucky enough to go to some games. I obviously followed the Barmy Army and people like Natalie, people like Ben. And when we were playing...
Reading.
Lewis. Lewis.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And I remember speaking to Ben. He was like, "Yeah, just come and find us. You can't miss us." And considering how welcoming the fans are, it was brilliant. But to go back to answer your question, the fans have made a difference. That atmosphere isn't in a lot of football grounds. It can be vocal when something positive happens. You get a goal when the teams come out. But the difficult thing is, even at WSL level, that you canvass crowds. Most of them will probably be only able to name, unless they've been going for years or they're kind of really dedicated. Most of them will probably only name about 7 or 8 of the players. Being blunt, they don't know the whole team, and because they don't know those teams, they don't know those players, it makes it difficult to kind of really get that sort of buy-in. The way the Barmy Army have been a real success is the fact that they buy into everyone. they love every single player. They support every single player. There's no getting on the back of them. If someone's having sort of bad form, it's not get them out, replace them. It's right, let's support this girl. Like even though WSL are professional, they're not professional in the same sense as the men. Ultimately, like I still know, I know of a couple of players that play in the tiers 2 and 3 that have had the opportunities to go professional, but they can't afford to take the pay cut. They're still taking a pay cut to go professional, and so from the fans' perspective, and I know it's sort of the banter that you see online everywhere, but the dripping pan, while they get decent crowds down there, there was something like 2,500 there. It was double what they get for a normal game, and that's on a hot sunny day. And they're a well-supported, fantastic club. So have United changed women's football? Yes, because to a degree, they've put it on the map.
Sorry, Stu. I was going to say, I mean, would you agree with that, Natalie, about how much we've helped grow the game, not just grow our team, but like grow the game?
I love Lewes. They're a fantastic club. They were so welcoming to us. I still keep up in touch with them, like with some of their players, with some of, the GM, the general manager, the photographer, the media man, and that's just through one trip. We went down there, and the way they treated us when they came up, when we won the league, the way, all that. And I think it's what Stuart sort of said, relatable. It's 100% down to earth, relatable. And that's how it all really kicked off for me. Waiting at the side of the pitch, I saw all the, kids waiting, because I'm not interested in selfies and this and that. I'm not interested, I'm a full-grown woman now. I just want to, for me, it's about the crack of the game. It's about the crack of the game, going down, this and that with your mates. So I was with my mates, the first game, Reading at home, and Jess Sigsworth come up to us, me and my mate, and said, I heard you guys all game singing. That's sick, that. And I just thought, wow, you'd never, ever see that. You'd see them say Matter, or he's one of the best ones. You'd see him and he would come up and he would speak to you. And I've had a picture of him, and I've seen him in a bar, in a restaurant, and I spoke to him and I said, and it's just smile, thanks for your support. It's not, oh, I heard that and this and that, and saying things back to you and giving you banter. And, I could write a book of all the banter they've given us, of all the things that they say. And they always encourage it. How can I say it? They're always like, you come in next game, we need your support. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. We need you loud this game. I remember the derby, and all of them, and they were like, Molly Green, she's now playing for Birmingham, but it was, we need that support. We need to be on form today. Come on, guys. And I feel like it's that togetherness. Like, come on, guys. We're the 12th player. If you read the program, you see Casey saying things like, this is going to be a big one. And I think it's things like that G you up. You do see managers do it in the Premier League, cupping their ears and all that. But when the girls are doing it's real, and people are naming some of their favourites, and there are favourites out there. Everyone's got a little favourite. Jess is my favourite, and I think Jess is my favourite because she's always, that first game she didn't have to speak to me. I was, I'm just a normal person, come and buy my ticket and go home. That's the kind of attitude I had when I went to Old Trafford, and I was with my group of people, and that's what I like to be. I like to be around the fans more. But the fact that they reached out, they were, oh, you're singing this song, oh, this is happening, that's what got it. And then they're just like us. That's how I see it, and it's mad for me. You play for
they're fans of women's football, ultimately, those players, and they appreciate it. They can hear it. You're not drowned out in an 80,000 seater stadium. You're one of 2, 3, 4, 5,000, and when you are as vocal, creating chants, going with the flags, it does make a difference. And sort of going back to sort of John's original question, because I do have a habit to kind of go off on, I get to the point eventually, but I kind of snake my way there. But Man United have made a big difference in women's football. And that's not to say that Arsenal fans, Man City fans, Chelsea fans weren't pushing the game. I mentioned the Yeovil Man City game, and their support was fantastic. It was vocal. Like, you want to put sound measuring device. If you really want to compete with them as a City and United, you can go for it. But they were there. They were supporting their side. Their supporters club are really well run. They support their team properly. They look to grow the women's game. But when Man United come there, they get website hits. They sell papers. Last year, that Manchester derby at the City ground, that was big. That was good. And any Manchester City fan, they would have been rubbing their hands going, yeah, we may not credit Man United. We don't want to tell them they've changed the game, because they haven't changed the game, but they've grown the game. That was a game that got fans' attention. The sort of fans that don't think about women's football, don't care about women's football ultimately. They'll care about a game like that. With the coverage it got on BT Sport, the coverage it got in national press, that's what gets the attention. And for me, the big challenge of women's football is it's getting the attention of those open-minded football fans. I took a friend of mine down to he's a Spurs fan, and I kind of booked him in quite early. So this was in the Championship season. I said, right, Spurs, Man United, 5 months' time, keep that Sunday free. And we went up there, and there was tons there. The crowd was there. It was one of those games where you wouldn't be able to get up to the barrier. You kind of, if someone moved, you'd have to kind of sneak your way in like you would to get to the front of a gig. And we took his little boy there, and they loved it. And they went to 2 or 3 other games since. We went to the Tottenham Arsenal game at the Spurs Stadium last year, and that was fantastic. So for the purpose of any other supporter that might be watching this, Man United have made a big difference, but all of these clubs that are really trying to push that are making a huge difference. But it's box office. Yeah. When we get those derbies, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, that's what changes the game. But the thing that I really want people to do is go watch your local team. I don't care whether you support Chelsea and you live in Newcastle. Go and watch your local team. Go watch Newcastle. Go watch Sunderland. Go watch Durham. There is good football, and there are grateful players that deserve the attention. And it's still a darn sight cheaper than any men's game that you're going to go see. And that's it. I'm talking about men's lower league as well. I think locally here, if I want to go watch Havant and Waterlooville, I'm paying 20 odd quid a ticket. Yeah, I can still go and see most Championship games and get quite a bit of change out of a tenner. And it's fantastic value.
For me, Stuart, you hit the nail on the head as well when you said it's the games like Man United, Man City. It's the games like, for me, Man United, Liverpool. For me, that was one of the best atmospheres that we've had, Stuart. I mean, John, you were there. That was electric. And I know there was talk of, that chant and this and that. And that thing, for me, ruined it all, because I think most of that game, and whether people like things like singing against Vicky Jepson, just a little bit of banter, maybe they weren't used to, And I think it's because it was United Liverpool. And I know some people want the rivalries to grow organically. Us and Everton, for me, that's an organic rivalry, because Everton men, I don't really have anything. But I think with the Willie Kirk situation and now this, I think that's an organic rivalry that's building. And obviously we were in the same position. But for me, you can never. I'm a Man United fan till the day I die. It's been ingrained in me. And I remember with my first game, I met Rachel Brown-Finnis in the Championship. She was at the Man United Sheffield game, and we were just talking about women's football. I didn't even know who she was at the time, and I said to her, "So who's the good clubs in WSL? Who's got the good fans?" And she said, "Man City have got really good fans." And that's when I said to her, "Man City fans will never be better than Man United fans." And so I said to her, "Next year, if we get promoted, you'll see that." And for me, I like, we're part of the FSA. The FSA, the men's muster part of it. So obviously we were at Liverpool. Obviously we were at City, all for growing the game. But for me, it's all about that rivalry. It's all about that. And, we lost to Liverpool recently. And the way Casey said it, I couldn't fault her, because she said,
on that point about Liverpool, would you say, again, we're talking about organic rivalries growing the game, would you rather have Liverpool in the WSL, or would you rather, as their rivals, have them in the Championship?
I'd rather be able to play them twice. I'd rather be able to play them twice, yeah. But at the same time, it's funny. It's funny that they're in the Championship. It's funny that it's good. I liked. It sounds really sad, but I was happy that Lewes got the point. I wanted Lewes to beat them. And if you probably saw Liverpool men lose. Everyone saw Liverpool men lose to Watford. Everyone was laughing. They still won the league, but everyone still laughed at them that day. So it's. I like to see it. I like to see them in the Championship because it makes me chuckle a bit, whether that's this and that, and they need to do more for their women's team. Totally. And I want to go to Prenton Park. I've not been there with United, unfortunately. But
yeah, I think you summed it up really well there for me. It's it can be a little bit funny to see them down there, but ultimately you want to be playing them twice a year. You want those games. It's good for women's football. What I'm quite happy about is that you've got another name down in the Championship. So you've got someone. There are going to be teams of the likes of Crystal Palace, Lewes, Charlton. They're going to go there because they're going to see that it's Liverpool, and it's not a skeleton team that once was. They've got a good team that you'd argue are still better than a couple of WSL clubs that are still there. So it's great to see a big name in the Championship in the short term. For me, in the long run, I'd actually quite like to increase the number of clubs in the WSL. I don't think there's any need for having so many weekends without WSL action or football at all. And if you really want to grow the game, I'd quite like to see at least the first half of the Championship get promoted up there, because I guess we kind of move on to that debate that's the two leagues within a league. And while I wouldn't suggest that Leicester City, Liverpool, Durham are going to be pushing are going to be getting to anywhere above the likes of West Ham, but they're never going to grow unless they get the WSL money for starters, or they get that improved facilities, or they're playing at that level every single week. I know the Conti Cup gets a bit of stick, but the Conti Cup is great for the likes of London Bees, London Lionesses, because that's when it's normal times. That's when you're going to get fans going to games. If it's televised by the FA player, it breeds that level of interest. And I just think they've got to increase the WSL, and it's got to be done in the next 5 years. There's too few clubs.
I think there's so much good clubs as well. I mean, you know what I'm about. If people know me from the women's game, I do go and watch Sheffield. I've watched them a lot because they've always had a lot of our players, and there's been a lot of times where, like you say, there's not enough games, and you want to go and, for example, Ebony Salmon went there, Nom Hartley went there, Amy Palmer, and these are young up-and-coming players, unfortunately not still playing for us. But I look at the Championship now. We've got Maria Edwards loan out to Blackburn. We've got Charlotte Newsham. She came through our development squad. Those two linked up last night, and there was a goal. And I think what you said as well, it goes back to what you said about Tier 3, growing these the lower league. Because for me, our development team is 17. The best players there are 17. I look at someone like Maria Edwards. If anyone hears, I always call her the baby goat, because I think she can be as good as LJ. And LJ's so good anyway. So that's how highly I rate her. But she's not going to get any game time. So she's had to go to Blackburn, which I think is a fantastic thing. And she's getting game time there.
Yeah, great club. They were absolutely destroying the third tier for, I think they won it about 4 or 5 years in a row, but they couldn't get promoted. I believe they couldn't get promoted because of sort of funding and meeting the basic criteria to go up. But it's brilliant, and there is that quality down there in those lower leagues. I think it was Tyrone on the comments mentioned about Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have got a great little squad. They've got they've got a Pompey girl playing for them, Sherelle, someone I know personally, and she's a really good, strong little striker. They came down and played Southampton Women, and not to be confused with the Saints, as we know, Southampton Women are their own club within their own right. And that was a great little FA Cup game. The game was sadly abandoned, but it was really good, competitive. And the Southampton Women, a Tier 4 club, you had great numbers there in the crowd. It really pushed the players on, and that's what I want to see. I want to see these players from these top clubs being loaned down to lower division clubs, and it's all well good me saying go watch your local club. But if you don't know who those players are, there's no link to it. But you, to your credit, Natalie, were going down to watch Sheffield United. You were like, I'm going to give another club my money. I'm going to support women's football. We all know that you bleed Man United, but you're also fundamentally a football fan. And I know that the Barmy Army gets a little bit of stick for the online opinions, and I sometimes say, well, that's probably a bit much, probably not fair, but then I won't really have too much of a bad word said about Barmy Army because...
Do you mind if we talk a bit about that? Because we was going to mention that. That was one of the things that you wanted to discuss anyway, about the perception of United fans, whether it be in the grounds or online.
Yeah, and just and it goes back to the little chat we've had with regards to rivalries. It's something. Twitter's probably not the greatest barometer for sort of general fan opinion, but from a women's football perspective, it kind of is, because it's the vessel that most women's football fans use, and there can be some. There's a how would I put it? There's some conversations which can get a bit spicy, and the Barmy Army, I like Marmite, to be honest. And as I say, I see some comments I won't necessarily agree with, and I think they're potentially a little bit provocative. And I think if it's provocative with a smile on your face, there's nothing wrong with that. If it's provocative and it's just daft and silly and you're just trying to pick fights online, maybe a bit daft, but I think on the whole, most of it is done tongue in cheek. And as I say, if the Barmy Army do get a bit of a reputation for being sort of gobby or anything, then to be honest, I'd probably sort of stick up for them. I think Reading, the FA Cup game, was a really good example. There was must have been, I don't know, Natalie, would you say there was about 100 to 150 Man United fans at the Reading game?
Yeah,
really vocal, and you could see it was getting to the Reading fans. Actually, they weren't. I don't think Reading came up with any chants for their team. They were vocally, they were supportive, they were applauding. But I think they were like, hang on a minute, who's this kind of? It was almost like, who are these ruffians that are coming down here and being noisy? We're trying to watch the game here, and all you guys are wanting, you can give us something back. But you guys were so welcoming for me, and it's not just me. I know impartial football fans that have come down, neutrals that have come, and if you're there supporting women's football, you guys will welcome them in like you're the friend. I could bring a friend to a Manchester United game, introduce them to the core of the Barmy Army, and if for whatever reason I had to leave the ground after 5-10 minutes or something, I could leave my friend there knowing they're in good company, they'll be looked after, they'll be spoken to, they'll be welcomed, they'll be handed a song sheet if they need it. And the Barmy Army are a really good fan base.
The amount of people, Stuart, I've met, and I've not known that I've met them, and I've not known who they are, and next minute I'm hearing Mary Earp say, oh, the Barmy Army, they met my mum, they gave her this, they did that, they bought her a tea. And I'm thinking, did we?
Yeah.
Obviously we did. And I didn't know it was her mum, didn't know who it was. And I think that's it, like you say, a neutral fan. And for me, I get where you're coming from. We love a bit of banter, a bit of, I mean, Emily Ramsey said it today. She's the other day. She said, what did she say? She said, Barmy Army have raised the atmosphere. It sounds really strange, but I know that you said City were vocal before, and I think people don't like that. Potentially that's a view, because I think we've come in and we've sung for 90 minutes, and I'm not saying that people didn't do that before, but we've just done it for 90 minutes. Like you said, there's a songbook, and I think the reason why we did the songbook is because Man United have so many songs. Like, you can sing the men's songs and adapt it to the, or you can just go there and just sing men's songs because they're so like neutral. They can be supporting any Man United team, you know.
Casey's at the wheel. That was a various one.
That was adapted, yeah. And I think we wanted songs for every player. And one night, a few of us just came up with a load, and it was like, we're going to forget some of these. You know, it's natural in your head. You're going to forget it. Write it down, hand it out. I mean, now at the game, we don't print them off. We've got it online, but we're not at the game. But I think a lot of people know it all now, so we don't need to hand it out. I mean, maybe at an away day, people might not know it's the first day, but definitely at LSV, people are now saying to me, I don't need it now. I know it. And, you know, these songs, they just stick. And, you know, Leah Galton, for me, that's the best song in the WSL. No one's got a better song than that. I think the players love it so much, they sing it every game, apparently, you know?
So how do you guys find, so obviously we see comments that are shared between maybe Chelsea fans and Man City fans. What's it like at the games? Because I've not had the luxury of being seen in the big derbies or any of the big WSL games. Is it
Chelsea? I love the Chelsea fans. They're great. They like you. Like you said about us, welcomed us in. Hi guys, right? Oh, you need to buy tickets. You should buy them here. You should do this. Chelsea Women supporters, great bunch. I know they don't really sit where they weren't where we were. We were more behind the goal. We like to stand up always. I think that's what we'll do in it, John. If there's seating or terrace, we'll always go to the terrace. And I think that's what I love as well about it. It's that throwback feeling, women's football, where you can stand on the terrace. You don't have to sit down in a seat.
So the rivalry is brilliant. It's got to be built on respect. Women's football is growing. So we put an article out the other day, Ali, who's a West Ham fan, and her argument was, rivalries are fantastic, whether they be organic or whether they come from the men's game. But the key thing is that fundamentally, everyone needs to club together and be a women's football fan. So it's almost like that boxing mentality. We're your mates up until the first whistle. We hate you until the final whistle. But after the final whistle, we'll go and have a chat, and then we'll have a laugh about that dodgy penalty. Was it over the line? Wasn't over the line? And for me, I think on the whole, women's football does do that, and there is that respect. The banter you get.
This is where it gets me a bit, Stuart. I know where people can come in and say what they want, but I disagreed with that article because I felt it was, you've got to support the whole of women's football. And I thought to myself, well, I'm part of the FSA. That for me is supporting the whole of women's football. That for me is every women's supporters club coming together and working on each other. So when the City game, the Everton game clashed, the men's and the thing, I was pushing that, right, let's get it retweet. What are the FA saying? Why has this happened? What's Sky saying? Sky, pushing that thing because that affects us as well, because that'll happen to us soon. And I think it's there in terms of that. That's the key thing, the FSA. Men's or women's, go and support them, go and follow them. That is something that I'm really passionate about and really behind.
You say you disagree with the article, but you do exactly what the article says. You support women's football as a whole because you go watch Sheffield United. You sing the praises of Blackburn. So as much as you might disagree with it, you're actually doing what the article says. You're supporting women's football as a whole. So
what I will say, Stuart, I love tribalism. And I know people might, when they hear that word, I love it. I want to be. It sounds really stupid, but when we went, John, you said it was a really good game, the City game. And for me, it was really good because we were separated.
Yeah.
It was Man United, and I loved that. That is what I wanted to see. If it could, I'd have it every game. I'd have home, away, and the neutral for if whatever, neutral. But I'd have the 2 goals behind them, your team. I don't want, not in a horrible way, I don't want to stand with a City fan when the derby's on. I don't want to stand with a Liverpool fan. I don't want to stand with West Ham fans, and that's what we always do. We always find a spot separate away. And it's not anything, fair enough, if City, I would see them and be like, but I feel more comfortable being around a sea of red. That's what I want. And
also, just talking about tribalism, just on a bit of a side note, even I think it was yesterday or the day before, some Everton fan jumped on Natalie's tweets. And then I saw it because it was completely out of order. And then obviously I just jumped on to back up Natalie's point. Just like that, if you see one of your mates getting, I wouldn't say the word attacked because that's a bit harsh, but saying something that's probably out of order or whatever, then you defend that person, wouldn't you? And that's, I guess, some people don't like that. And that's nothing against me. I've got nothing against Everton fans. In fact, I've got someone on Twitter who's a lovely person, and she's an Evertonian as well. And it's nothing to do with what club you support. It's just that when you see one of your fellow fans who doesn't deserve being treated in the way that they might have been treated, you just jump on and defend them, don't you? And I think that's part of that.
Especially for our players, John. If we see, especially another if someone said you were a Chelsea fan, you said, "Oh, Tooney's not that good." That's it. That's it. That's it. Someone
in the men's game, completely opposite.
Fair enough, but I think it's the fact that you're a Chelsea fan. You can't say that about our players. Only we can say it, and I mean that it's childish and all this. But
definitely. And on the whole, I think most people you have an argument and they don't get personal or nasty about it, because tribalism, it really depends on your definition of it. Tribalism from a perspective of, hello, nice to meet you. Oh, you're a Liverpool fan. I hate you. Look at me again. I'm going to punch you in the face. That's wrong. But when it's tribalism and it's kind of, I don't like your club. I don't care what your club does. Then I think, there's ways of doing it. And I think on the whole, women's football generally does it. Twitter's obviously not the best barometer all the time, but I love women's football fans. That's what makes me give up all of my time to run since 71. And the same for a lot of my colleagues at Right Football. They love the football fans. Of women's football. There's so much to talk about. They're so welcoming, and it feels like a community. And you do not get that in men's football outside of your own club. And I love that community from the international level all the way down to grassroots football.
Yeah, definitely.
Before I forget, I just want to jump in. I think I saw John asked about local football in Norwich.
Yeah.
You actually have Norwich and Ipswich that both compete in the 4th tier. Ipswich Town are absolutely smashing it. They are one of those clubs that were ready, set for promotion until when COVID came in. And since it's restarted, they've picked up where they left off, and they're top of the league. They're doing really well. I think they got to the 5th or 6th round of the Women's FA Cup last year. So if you're in the area, you could go support Norwich because they are your local club. But if you want to try and see a team that are really on fire at the moment, go and see Ipswich Town. They actually won our awards and our Since 71 awards for the Club of the Year, Team of the Year last year, because of what they achieved in their FA Cup run and league football. So, John, if you can, get yourself down to Ipswich Town. At that level, there is no behind closed doors. You can go in, you can watch football.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I've got another couple of questions, haven't you, Stuart?
I'll kind of take this opportunity because, as I said, I've got an 8-month-old upstairs, so it's kind of limited me getting around to games and everything. But I've been following through highlights, through shows like this, shows like this, and I've just been seeing how well Kirsty Hansen seems to be doing, Ella Toon. We obviously know about Leah Galton, but if we want to chuck in a bit about her, amazing. But I want to kind of find out from your perspective, the sort of match goers that you've seen them progress since the championship. How important are they? And are they both shoe-ins for international football in the short to medium or long term?
I'll let you go, John.
Happily. I think a lot of the match-going fans and a lot of the fans that I speak to on a regular basis have got a lot of respect for Tooney and Hansen. I think it'll be interesting to see what maybe your point of view, who's a neutral, or what the press and the journalists think, and even maybe the new Man United fans who have come from America because of Press and Heath joining. I think they may have maybe different views. But for someone like me and Nat and other people who have seen Tooney and Hansen come through, we've just got the utmost respect for them. Not just because of how good they are, but also where they've come from and where they are now in such a short amount of time, and also where we believe that they're going to be. We've done a show specifically on Tooney and Hansen and a few of the homegrown players, and I just can't speak highly enough of any of them. Still at a very good age, they're surrounded by people who are going to look after them, and now all these internationals coming over, they're only going to get better. We've seen Tooney and Hansen pretty much start a lot of games this season, and they're just two of my fans, two fantastic players who can't wait to see more of long term.
And should they both be in? Obviously, are they both shoe-ins for a long career in international football? Do you think are they? If they're not at that level yet, are they?
110%, 110%. Tooney. I mean, I watched it a lot of the championship, and Hansen was our top assister there, but I think she peaked and then sort of curtailed in the Championship. And then when I saw Tooney in the Championship, I just thought, she's decent. I didn't think much of it. It wasn't like an LJ, you know. It wasn't like Zella and Millie, like the main. It wasn't Jess scoring all the time, but Tooney just slowly going about her business. She maybe didn't get as much game time as she wanted last year, but for me, she can be whatever she wants. She's, I think, a shoe-in, definitely. I don't know. I know, you know, Fran Kirby's potentially in a 10, but there isn't really. I don't know too much about Lionesses, but I don't think there's any a proper 10, maybe. And I think Tooney's that 10. Tooney.
For me, I think there needs to be more of the Man United squad within the club, within the Lionesses setup. To be fair to Phil Neville, he's starting to introduce them now with Katie Zellum and Millie Turner, but I think they're only going to increase the strength of the Lionesses squad, and they need to be there, not just there playing practice matches. I want to see Katie Zellum starting. I want to see, and I know it's a really difficult situation with Neville being a bit of a lame duck at the moment. We don't need to see Steph Horton starting every single game. We need to see Millie Turner starting games. They need to be given a chance to play at that level. And like you say, obviously Leah Galton's obviously got her own issues for not being a mainstay of the Lionesses squad. But from what I see from Kirsty Hansen, yeah, she's another one.
Scotland.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, she's Scottish, and she's that sort of player. You put her in a midfield with Aaron Cuthbert, and you've got players like Claire Elmsley. That's a good side. That's a side that if England men's play Scotland men, you know England men's are going to come on top of it, even if Scotland are going to raise their game. But I tell you what, you watch that Kirsty Hansen take on Demi Stokes or Alex Green at left back, you're like, you need to be worried. If Lionesses play Scotland, the result could go either way. You've got to be on form. And then it goes to what we said before about having those big games. For me, I want to see some sort of home nations tournament. I want to be able to grow that local game in the United Kingdom, Ireland, with Wales. If you get Lionesses against Wales, they came down to Southampton a couple of years ago, and it was a good crowd there. Sadly, it was 0-0, but that grew the game. Loads of people around here, they went to watch it. A lot of the young women's clubs they go, they see those players, they see role models, and they see a pathway, and that's really important. And you need more games, and when you're going to be playing England, Scotland, people are going to watch that. You can have the Lionesses play the big clubs, like your big international countries like your Germanys, but if you're a neutral that's not really into women's football and you see England, Scotland, and that's on the BBC Two or the iPlayer, you think, I might watch that. You're not going to watch Lionesses against Sweden, realistically. You don't have that buy-in, but you have that rivalry which you can transfer from the men's game. And I think there's got to be a little sort of almost like a Six Nations style competition, and I think it would just be fantastic. And I want to see Hansen take on Greenwood. I want to see her. Give him a chance.
I want to see a Skinner. I want to see a Ripper. But no, for me, Tooney and Hansen as well were two names that people might have thought, oh, you got Preston Heath coming in. You know, people like Tooney and Hansen and this, they're not going to make it. But I think it's credit to them that they just kept working, kept going, and kept, work it extra hard, work 10 times harder. Press is come. I remember it was Hansen's comment when Tobin came in, now I'm going to learn from the best. And I think, that's the attitude to have rather than, oh, I'm not playing and, they said this and this. It's when I'm going to get minutes, I'm going to show you. And I think that's what they've done, and it's credit to them. And for me, Ella Toon, it's hot. I love LJ. I'm the biggest LJ's fan, But for me, at the minute, and I know LJ hasn't played, but Tooney's that one for me now.
Yeah, and just look how good the Lionesses midfield could be. You just look at Ella Toon, Katie Zellum, and LJ. Like, my gut instinct is they got to start for England. But then you look at some of the other players from the other clubs. You've got players like Gemma Bonner, like your Fran Kirby's, Jill Scott's. Like, well, actually, they're all pretty decent as well. So it's really positive for the England game.
one player that we haven't mentioned yet when it comes to England international, someone who I've been really impressed with this season, Stuart, Alessia Russo.
Yes, very good that you mentioned her. I didn't know too much about her before she signed for United, but she looks class. She looks like she's. You'd argue that she's definitely the long-term replacement for Ellen White. But if she carries on this vein of form, in the next 2 or 3 months, there's going to be an argument that she could be in there for form alone. She looks absolutely class. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. I'm not what I learn about women's football as it goes along. So obviously, when that was a name that was being bandied about, and a name that you said, "Oh, she'll be free soon. She'll be free soon." So. I know Matt Crane, he's been on this before. He's always bigged her up, and a lot of people have bigged her up. A lot of journalists, Rich Lafferty, Kieran, I can't say his surname, but he also bigged him up, and it's magic. It's magic what you're seeing, and I agree with Livia. She should be the 9 for England, and should be the 9 for us soon. Like, she's absolutely different class.
Yeah. I can't, and you can't see her being moved in the United side, to be honest.
No.
You could look and you could say, if I said to you right now, Alex Morgan or Russo, I'll tell you what, you'd probably go, nah, Alex, you can.
We're all right, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really good. Which is really nice to see. It's like I hold my hand up. I got pounced upon because on Twitter because when Preston Heath signed, I kind of put the question out there and said, "But what do you think for the likes of Tooney, the likes of Hanson, the likes of Galton? Do you welcome it? Because I know they're loved." And actually, everyone said, "Hang on a minute, Stu. Firstly, you didn't say that when Newis signed for Man City." And I'm like, "Yeah, fair enough. Hold my hands up." Ultimately, it wasn't my intention. But actually, those players come in and it makes them look better. But Russo just looks like the kind of player that you don't need Pernell Harder or any of these stars, or Marta or any of these sort of star strikers. You think, actually, we've got a star in the making.
Yeah, that's what it's about with this team, I feel. LJ, Russo, Tooney, it's about that. It's about the girls. And, Russo, even if she didn't come from us, she's Man United through and through. There's a little picture of her.
Yeah. She's obviously a product of the sort of. She was involved in the Manchester United Foundation in the youth setup, was she not?
I don't think so. I think she's
fair enough. But it's like you see that how these international players are enhancing the homegrown, and so actually, I've been really pleasantly surprised how these players haven't. These likes of Galton and Hanson haven't just been pushed to the sidelines and said, "Sorry, you're going to have to sit out this year." They've been incorporated, and they're doing well. They're learning. They're developing. It's just a shame that there aren't more games, so they can all get more football. Ultimately,
credit to Casey for me. Credit to Casey, 110%. The way she's integrated Preston Heath, the way it's just like you'll get the minutes and. You come on this and that. And like you say, it has been Galton and Hanson. It has been, Tooney. It's not just the case of, right, you're out, you're in. It's you prove. Yeah. And I think Tobin, yeah, fair enough. But at the start, it was, you're sitting on the bench. Press is still sitting on the bench. I can't see I don't see him moving Russo anytime soon. So.
Yeah. And that's credit to the incoming players as well. It shows that the humility. They haven't come in and thought we're going to be big time Charlies and push these players out. They've joined a team, and they're all pushing in the right direction. They know that they've not come in expected to be treated like VIPs and walk into the side. They're here pulling in the same direction as every other teammate is, and it's really good to see. And it's credit to those that have come in. It's been a smooth transition, and as you say, Casey has managed that really well. It seems to be there's a lot of harmony. It would probably be quite easy for some players to be disheartened and think, "Oh, I'm just sitting on the bench for 12 months." That hasn't happened. They're feeling. It just looks like there's a real collectiveness within that group.
Well, that brings us nicely on to our final topic, Arsenal. Look, the Arsenal game, they've started off really well. They've won 5 out of 5. I think they've scored something like 29 goals and conceded 4. But I will just say this: all the teams that they've played so far haven't been one of the top teams, not in my opinion anyway. They have come up against City. I think it was in the FA Cup and lost. Chelsea in the Conti Cup and lost. I appreciate the Champions League is another level, but they lost that one as well just a couple of months ago. Natalie, are you scared of Arsenal at all?
I think it'd be wrong to say I'm not scared. And I think if we had played the Everton game and, like I said about Honor, LJ, them getting minutes, I would have been even more confident. I think they've had their minutes. Their players came back from internationals and they've played. And that's the only thing that worries me a bit, John. But going into this, I'm confident. Not arrogant, not overconfident. I mean, I've had people coming up to me saying, you're going to get battered. Maybe we will. But we've not been battered by anyone really so far. You know, every game that we played, when we have got beat, it's always been by the odd one goal. So for me, I think the Chelsea game showed what we're about. I think it's a mental thing. I think when we have lost these games, it's been by 1 goal. It's a mental thing. And I think now we've got more quality. I think like your Russo, Jackie's really stepped up. Obviously, Tooney's doing even better. And then Press and Heath, you know, for me, the way that, like you said, they got beat against City. Yeah, it was a tight game, but people said, I mean, I didn't watch it, and I didn't watch the Chelsea game either. That wasn't televised, but they were dominated in midfield. That's what people said. They've got small midfielders. They were dominated. And I think the way Jackie's playing, I think she'll play Hayley Ladd as well. You know, Tooney, it's like that work rate, that terrier. And I'm not saying they've not got work rate, Arsenal. I just think that's where we're going to win. Our work rate needs to be out of this world. And I think it was when we played them that very, very first game. It was out of this world. We were, you know, dead on our feet and they got a last minute. But we didn't have that player to come on. Now we've got those players. Now we can bring press on. Now we can bring this on. Now LJ's on the bench. You know what I'm saying? And we can mix it up and we've got the depth a bit to do it. And for me, you know, Fuso is back. And no one talks about her, and that's a name. And I'm not saying she's this or that, but no one knows what they're going to expect from her. So she could come on and just rip through the defence. And, you know, John Fry, defence is their weakness. They've got a lot of injuries. For me, the time is now. And I think what you'll see if we do win, you're going to see the most arrogant, pig-headed, boastful Man United. Because I think if we win this game, for me, I know this might sound stupid to some, we're going to win the league. And that's my 2 pence. Stuart, John, go for it. Tear me apart. I don't care.
No, I wouldn't. I think it's a statement win that Casey will be looking for. You look at the league table now, it shows Manchester United undefeated, and they want to go Monday morning and keep that record. A draw, well, wouldn't be a bad result, but a win would be a cracking result. I rate Arsenal. I think Van der Donk is one of the best midfielders in the Super League and the world. I think I'd pay to watch every single time. I think she's superb. I think she would strengthen every single team in the world, and Arsenal are the ones lucky enough to have her in. And when you've got her playing just behind the likes of Miedema, you've got Beth Mead, you've got Ford and Rude. There's a good, dangerous forward line there, but you can get at them if you can be ruthless going forward and take your chances at important parts of the game. Then the game is there to be won, and I can see United getting an early goal in the first 20 minutes. They get that early goal and Arsenal coming out, then Casey's going to be rubbing her hands and saying, brilliant, you leave gaps in behind because we've got the quality to exploit it. My prediction, as I said at the beginning, is 3-2 to United. I just hope there's goals. I'd be really disappointed if it's a cagey 1-1 draw. I just want both sides. They've got talent going forward. I just want to see goals. I want to see a basketball game. I don't want to see a 7 or 8 goals each or something like that. But I just want to see both teams going for it. I want to see a good advert for football, a good advert for women's football. played the right way, played positively, competitively, with a bit of a rivalry there. They're both competing for the WSL. And as I say, if you ask me to put my daughter's inheritance on it, I'm gonna go Man United to shade it.
Come on.
Yes. Have you got a score prediction, Natalie?
2-1 United. Let's go.
Okay.
I'm going on the Arsenal YouTube channel in a minute, and when I go on there, I'll tell them it'll be 3-2 Arsenal.
I did guess the Chelsea result opening game of the season 1-1, where I think a lot of fans thought, potentially we could have lost that game. So I've got the 1-1 correct, and I think I'm just going to go for a bit of a 1-1 here as well. And I'll take that because I think that the other big teams can take points off each other. We've shown that this season that we can take points off the smaller teams. So yeah, I'd probably take a 1-1 and then hopefully snatch a couple of wins towards the end of the season against the big ones as well. But either way, much like yourself, I would love to see goals, and I think we have been fragile at the back this season. Potentially that might not change against Arsenal had it, but I definitely think that we've got a goal in us as well. So 1-1, and yeah, let's see where that could take us into the 2 City games as well.
Well, it continues the development of Manchester United as a team. Last season, there was a lot of good games against the top 4, if you want to call them that, but most of them ended in defeats. So while you want to be pushing for that win, you're quite right in saying that actually a draw wouldn't be a bad result, and it does show a development and an improvement within the squad, and it will breed further confidence. Although I anticipate that United squad would be disappointed with a 1-1 draw. I think they'll feel like they should win it.
And I think that's the level. That shows the level that we've got to now, where we are disappointed with a draw. And I know that when we equalised against Chelsea, you could see the look on the players' faces. They was all looking at each other, thinking, "Come on, we can actually win this game now." And that shows where we've come from. Because last season, when we went 1-0 down against every big team, we couldn't get that equaliser. And now, and Casey knows it, the players know it, and I think more importantly, our rivals know it as well. 1 goal isn't enough. We can always come back and get something now. Stuart, it's been an hour and 10 minutes, and I think it's time for us to wrap it up. But thank you very much for coming on. Thank you to all the comments. We've got quite a few people watching. We've had roughly between 15 and 25 people watching constantly. We've had 30 or 40 for the first 20 minutes as well. So that was cracking views there as well. Natalie, if anybody wants to find you, what are your socials?
Yeah, it's at Natalie_17, and then obviously the big one at Barmy Army MUWFC. Get involved, people. Like, we're one big, massive, happy family.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Stuart, yourself.
You can find us on social media platforms just under Since 71 blog. And thank you for having me. It's been my first ever YouTube. I talk a bit, but hopefully you get some decent points somewhere within it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to hear someone neutral and someone with a bit more experience and longevity in the game than myself, especially. So thank you again for coming on, Stuart, and hopefully you can come back on again at some point and
definitely. But the one key message I want to kind of get to everyone: if you've got a free weekend, look at your local National League club. You can go watch those games. It's cheap. You get a lot of value for money for it. You don't have to. You're not cheating on Man United or whoever you support if you go and see them, but you are really supporting women's football, and they will be grateful for having you there.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, everyone.
See you again soon, guys. Next week. Thank you.